Babylon is one of the best films of the decade. I've said it and I mean it, and hopefully I'll be able to prove my case. Or at least I'll be able to explain just a few things. Why did Babylon flop, why the critics were wrong, and why this film is a freaking masterpiece. I rewatched Babylon with my girlfriend yesterday, and as we reach near the finale of this 3-hour-long epic, I found myself engulfed by the ending of this movie yet again. I remember vividly watching Babylon for the first time. I was at the cinema, I went by myself, and I remember so well how deeply emotional the ending of this film felt for me. And of course it would. I love movies. I love making movies, I love watching movies, and I adore this industry. This often ugly but also beautiful industry, I adore it, and in many ways, I owe my life to it. I feel a sense of responsibility to film, and I feel like it's my calling. And I know so many people, such that work in film, or such that simply love watching film, who also feel this way. And to me and to them, an ending like that of Babylon will of course have a strong emotional impact. So I was watching and I was feeling overwhelmed with emotions such as admiration or love, which again makes sense as the ending of Babylon is in many ways a celebration of the immortality of film. And the credits rolled, and I turned to my girlfriend who loves movies but is not your traditional film buff. And she was crying. And I was surprised. I asked her why, and she said it's because she feels that the ending of Babylon was deeply saddening. She said that to her it felt like this was a film about death and rebirth and how nothing really lasts, and that just made her really sad. And I found myself confused for a bit because my silly little film bro brain could not really comprehend what she meant. What do you mean you find the ending sad and about death? It's a celebration of cinema, I said. But she explained and made me think quite hard, and I realized that yes, Babylon is in many ways, on surface level, a celebration of cinema, but really, internally, this film is about making your mark in an ever-changing and terrifyingly fast world.
Tell me why.
Why?
Yeah, tell me why.
I don't know. Why? I just want to be part of something bigger. Be part of something important, something that lasts, that means something.
This is not that crazy of a realization or analysis. This is something that has been actually stated by Chazelle himself, but this did recontextualize the film for me personally. It's not about movies or Hollywood or even creation itself. It's all about understanding we're just one frame in an endless reel of celluloid, and it's about being at peace with that. I'm very sad that Babylon didn't do well financially or critically, because I do think this is a message that could have definitely resonated hard with general audiences. Now, I do want to briefly talk about why this film didn't do well, just to get that out of the way. To be honest, I've seen a lot of criticism on this front, and I'm sure that people are right, as there are many analysts who understand marketing better than I do, but I also must say that from a consumer point of view, I did see a lot of solid marketing for Babylon. I know that a bunch of the budget was probably spent on TikToks for reasons unknown, but I think it's also fair to give credit where credit is due, because at least in the UK, the PR push to get people to the cinema was heavy. On the other hand, I would have seen this film no matter what because of Chazelle and the cast, but I do understand that for a general moviegoer, the Babylon trailers or any promotional materials really did not actually convey what this film was about in any way. We saw a lot of them, but I guess they weren't very good advertisements. They made it look cool, sure, but that's about it, and I guess that wasn't enough for a lot of people, and reasonably so. Babylon did release with Avatar: The Way of Water and Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. I do think this is a main factor as to why this film bombed financially. Crowds were just way more into James Cameron those holiday weekends. And also, by the way, there was a massive snowstorm in the States at the time, if I remember correctly, and people just physically couldn't get to the cinema for a few days. Critics generally didn't like Babylon, and of course a Rotten Tomatoes score is vital for the life of any film these days, and so a low score almost guarantees less box office dollars. Why did critics dislike Babylon? Well, I can't speak for everyone, as everyone has their own opinions, which are often more than valid, but I can analyze a few trends at the time. One reason for the dislike was that the film was deemed grotesque, which is, I'm sorry, absurd, because A, it isn't that grotesque at all. B, there are literally thousands of films, a lot of them commercial American releases, far more extravagant than Babylon, that have been critical successes. And C, even if this film was grotesque, that doesn't mean it's bad in any way. A few other reasons that critics didn't like Babylon was that it was deemed long, shallow, and shapeless. Three things I'll aim to oppose in a few minutes. When all of this happened though, when Babylon flopped hard, I noticed that a wave of film enthusiasts were speaking very fondly of the film and opposed the general critics' consensus. A lot of my friends and colleagues, people quite successful in the film industry, not only liked but loved Babylon.
I think that Babylon is one of the most epic and cinematic experiences I've seen. I think as a filmmaker, I want to have made that movie.
On Letterboxd, for example, I don't think any of my friends have rated Babylon lower than 4 stars, which is pretty crazy. And I feel like a lot of this opinion has stuck. A lot of people are beginning to appreciate the actual beauty of this film. I mean, go read some community reviews, or go on a Reddit discussion, or just talk to people who have actually seen the movie. I find that more often than not, they've liked it. In only a year, Babylon has already achieved a sort of cult following. And this time, I don't think it's because of anything specific to the film itself. I think this comes from a general feeling of unfairness towards the picture, as those who've seen it have really enjoyed it and feel the criticism and the hate it's reserved is unreasonable. So we want justice. Now, let's talk about why Babylon is great. The movie is about a transitional period in Hollywood between silent films and talkies, and focuses primarily on 4 individual characters and their experiences and adjustments throughout this period. Jack Conrad, the silent film star, Nellie Leroy, the up-and-coming A-lister, Manny Torres, a Mexican immigrant trying to carve his way into the industry as a director and producer, and Sidney Palmer, a jazz musician. A main reason why Babylon is fantastic is because of how well it balances themes and characters throughout such a dense storyline. People had criticisms that the film was shallow or shapeless, but I full-heartedly disagree. If anything, I think the shape of the film is flawless. The editing is spectacular and creates a perfect equilibrium between fast-paced debauchery like this with more intimate moments like this.
I'm Manuel. I'm Manuel.
I heard you. Oh, I didn't need your help.
I know.
It's a 3-hour-long film that really doesn't feel 3 hours long and is worthy of its runtime, which I wouldn't really say is that predominant in this current wave of longer films. And on the surface, yes, Babylon is about the film industry, the transitional period between silent films and talkies, and how that affects everyone involved. It's all about the beauty and also the ugliness of creation, and why filmmaking is important, why it's such an elevated and beautiful medium. And then a few layers below, we have, of course, the theme of death and immortality, a sort of nihilistic lens into the simultaneously everlasting, but also ever-dying idea of art itself. In the core of all this are Nelly, Jack, Manny, and Sydney. 4 characters with 4 individual but also intertwined storylines, each of which represents and develops main themes of the film, but each of which also is its own standalone arc. Nelly is the one obsessed with film because of its star-focused nature.
I'm already a star.
You are?
Yeah,
What have you been in?
nothing yet.
Who's your contract with?
Don't have one.
Okay, I think you want to become a star.
Honey, you don't become a star. You either are one or you ain't. I am.
She craves the success and the fame and all the things that come with the lifestyle of being a movie star, but maybe not necessarily the art of it all. Jack is the one most affected by this change in cinema. He craves for things to go forward, but when that finally comes, he's now a dinosaur and he has to deal with things like, did he ever really even matter? He's done so much for this industry and now it chews him and spits him back out? Does he miss the old ways only because he was happier and more successful then? Or is this all worth it in the end of all things?
There'll be 100 more Jack Conrads. 100 more me's. 100 more conversations just like this one over and over again until God knows when. Because it's bigger than you.
Manny's storyline is all about the American dream. He can achieve anything if he works hard enough, but maybe that comes at a hefty cost. Maybe he does do everything he has to succeed and gets everything he's ever wanted, but maybe that changes him.
It's going to be on you, Sydney. You're risking all these guys' ability to feed their families over makeup.
Maybe in the end, he's not that happy. Sydney, on the other hand, is exactly the opposite of all of that. He doesn't care about the stars or the cars, he only wants music. He's in it for the art, and Hollywood is a means to an end for him. So when Hollywood asks him to cross a line, he is immediately done.
It's okay, I won't be back.
He doesn't want to play the game, he just wants to play jazz. I find Babylon to be so perfectly stable, and that is its defining quality. It's a character story, it's a historical biopic, it's a poetic romantic film, it's a fun adventure, hell, it's even a horror film sometimes. The balance of all these things is noteworthy, and the film never gets boring or same note. It beautifully paves its way through a plethora of stories and material. And there's also just so many amazing sequences in this. When I rewatched Babylon for the first time, I found myself remembering everything. The opening party, the day on set, the first sound scene, the snake scene, Nelly's breakdown, Sydney's departure, Jack's departure, the underground sequence, Nelly and Manny's confession of love, the ending. The ending. What an ending. Frankly, I wasn't sure when I saw Babylon if I liked the ending, and to be honest with you, I am still not sure if I like the ending. There is still a part of me that finds it weird that there is an Avatar shot in this film. I don't know if that's good weird or bad weird, but I just know it's weird. But I also know that the ending is just so deeply emotional and breathtaking. The absolute change of pace is very much intentional.
I'm happy again.
I think none of the sequencing or editing in the last few minutes of Babylon makes any sense, and I think that's the point. This creates a sense of confusion in the viewer. What we're watching is beautiful, but also a little broken and a little ugly in many ways. The decision to not end the film here but here. Is very interesting, as the first option is objectively a safer and much clearer ending. But I think where Giselle did decide to end, this trippy, broken, weird, LSD-infused sequence he decided to create, is much more representative of the film as a whole and the themes it stands for. It might not be as romantic of an ending, but isn't that the point of Babylon? Nothing is as romantic as it seems. And to briefly circle back to immortality, I think the visuals and the design of the film are very interesting, as they don't actually necessarily reflect on the time accurately. Babylon is of course shot on film, but it's stylistic and carries a sense of visual poeticism and romanticism. Even shots like these recreations of the way older films used to look, are not accurate at all when you think about it. They're very much a modern representation of what that visual medium used to be. The costumes are often stylistic, the makeup isn't of the time, the production design is heavy and over-exaggerated. Even the music, a driving force in Babylon, is a weird mix between traditional jazz and modern-day techno. And even the story, yes, it's a historical representation, but we are talking about a film that has a scene where Margot Robbie is fighting a snake. Nothing is fully time accurate, and this is very much a conscious choice. Chazelle, I think, wanted to immortalize his own film. He wants it to feel like a story of the past told in the present that also reflects on the future. The way the film looks and feels tells us that while all of this was happening then, it's also all happening now, and it will also all continue to happen forever and ever and ever.
Your time today is through, but you'll spend eternity with angels and ghosts.
For me, in many ways, watching Babylon is a terrifying experience. Because the film is largely about how the film industry isn't as pretty as it seems, how gut-wrenching it is at times. But as I watch the scenes and as I observe the life on set and everything going on around making these pictures, I feel the fire inside of me burning larger than ever. I feel myself craving these things, which is paradoxical and ridiculous, as the whole point of the film is that they're not as they seem and that maybe we shouldn't crave them. It's like those finance bros who want to be Jordan Belfort after watching Wolf of Wall Street. That's exactly not the point of the movie. But I think, dare I presume, maybe that's what Damien Chazelle feels too. It may be what everyone who works in the film industry feels. Because we all know a lot of dark truths, we all know there's a lot of this going on, but we do it anyway. It's not really a choice, it's something you need to do. And we fall in love with it, and we do it again and again and again and again. Because that's just the reality of movie making. It's ugly, but it's also beautiful. But more than anything, it's a fucking drug.
What about you? Where would you go?
Sorry?
If you could go anywhere in the whole world, where would you go?
Anywhere. I don't know. I always wanted to go on a movie set.
Yeah?
Yeah, a movie set.
Tell me why.
Why?
Yeah, tell me why. I want to go on a movie set too.
Why? I just want to be part of something bigger, I guess.
Bigger than what?
Bigger than this. I don't know, bigger than my life, bigger than scooping elephant shit. Bigger, better, important. Something important. To be part of something important, something that lasts, that means something.